This is going to be day 2 notes of Unit 3, Financial, Market, Money, and Banking. We're going to start reserves. Reserves is just a generic word for cash. It means money in a bank. There are required reserves, which is money that a bank cannot lend out. And then the reserve ratio, the Fed will dictate a percentage of money in the United States. It's 10%. That money that banks have and demand deposits must be kept in their vaults. Now, this can change, and on AP questions, you'll see 20%, you'll see 25%, 10%, and 5%. This is a T-chart. This is very basic unit of accounting. We'll get into reading the T-chart in another video, but the liabilities here for the AP exam will equal the assets. So this is everything the bank owns. Their biggest liability will always be demand deposits, because customers give banks their money, banks owe them the money back. But while the customer's not using the money, banks can buy assets like bonds that can give out loans. Fractional reserve banking. This helps to explain why the M1 money supply is $3.49 trillion, or actually $3.61 trillion in the U.S., and the cash is only about $1.39 trillion. Fractional reserve banking is a system in which banks will lend out your money when you're not using it. So if you deposit money in the bank, banks will keep a percentage of it, and they will lend out the rest, or they will buy bonds with the rest. Other people will borrow your money, they will spend it, that money will go back into other banks, and this is how the money supply can grow within the economy. The money multiplier is used to calculate the entire amount that the money supply can grow with a bank deposit or a new injection of money from the Fed. And the money multiplier is 1 over the reserve ratio. Remember, the reserve ratio is going to be written as a fraction. So let's say it's 10%. The reserve ratio would be 1 over 10. So 1 over 1 over 10, the money multiplier here would be 10. So you just flip the fraction. If it's 20%, that's 1 over 1 over 5. That's 5. The money multiplier is the reciprocal of the reserve ratio. And again, as I just said, if it's 10%, the money multiplier will be 10. You take the amount of money put into the bank, or you take the amount of money put into the economy, you multiply it by the money multiplier, and that's the total effect change. And there's some nuance there, but we'll get into that in a different lecture. Numbers you will see on the exam, you will see a reserve ratio of 5%, 10%, 20%, 25%, which equates to a money multiplier of 20, 10, 5, 4. A way to remember it is 5 goes into 100 20 times, 10 goes into 100 10 times, 20 into 100 5 times, and 25 into 100 4 times. Excess reserves. Banks may choose to keep money in their vaults that are above the required reserves. So for example, if required reserves are 10%, banks might keep an extra 10%. This would reduce the money multiplier. For example, if the reserve requirement is 10%, the money multiplier equals 10. If banks keep an excess 10%, then the money multiplier becomes 5, because 20% the reciprocal of that is 5. When money comes from the Fed, it's the amount of money times the money multiplier. When a person deposits in a bank, it is the money that's being deposited times the money multiplier, but you must subtract the original. Or it's the loan the money that's being lent out times the money multiplier. The difference here is when the Fed injects money in the money supply, there's an immediate change to the money supply. This is new money coming in, or new money, or money being taken out of the economy. There's an immediate effect. When you deposit money in the bank, there's no immediate change. If it's in your pocket or in the bank, it's still in the economy. So you don't want to double count it. That's why you subtract it.